Hey everyone, welcome back to Verified Gains. Welcome back. If you have not subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with Bitcoin, Solana, POPCAT, troll meme coins. I talk about everything here, so make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out. We just got another subscriber, 39 subscribers strong. Thank you very much for subscribing. Hope you guys stay and watch this video. Now, before I begin, first, look, I admit I was wrong. The markets proved me wrong. I was humbled, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, so I just want to, fully say that, hey, look, I make mistakes all the time in terms of predictions, but just like the traditional equities market and a very volatile crypto market, we must always be quick to adapt. And that's what I'm here posting these videos on a weekly basis because I want you to show that I have resilience. I'm quick to adapt, and whatever the situation might be, the most important part is how do we overcome that hardship, that obstacle. So let's dive right in. So the reason I say that is because I was very confident that we would never retest $110,000 over here, which is a support line depicted by this green horizontal line. But look, the markets proved me wrong. There was a little bit of support locally around 112,000. We did quite well up until here where we got a hard rejection at $123,000. Try to stay around this resistance line around $117,000, $118,000. Got rejected. Try to stay above $112,000 at the local support line. Retest $117,000, hard rejection, and we actually ended up retesting $110,000. In fact, at one point, actually a couple points over here, we're below $110,000. So I think overall, this volatile movement in a short period of time probably liquidated a lot of people that were leveraged. And that's why I always say, guys, if you guys are using leveraged trades, you are going to get liquidated. And right now, with a lot of these institutional investors involved, that means more money makers are involved. They're going to liquidate, all the shrimps. Okay, if you're just a shrimp in this war of whales, you're going to get liquidated by the volatility. However, I don't leverage. I'm not using margin, so there's no way I'm going to be liquidated. And whatever I earn from my W-2, I'm putting straight into the crypto market. So if anything, on these red days, I'm always buying the dip. Okay. However, that said, still, it was very painful to get a hard rejection off $123,000 and going back all the way down to $110,000. Now, we largely did diverge from the M2 money supply. Today, I won't show the charts, but the M2 money supply, it was supposed to plateau, not, retrace like this, what we're seeing over here. And I think this is probably going to just be the same way until the end of this week. Hopefully next week, when it's September, we start to pick back up. However, that said, when we look at the Pi cycle top indicator, I mean, this is very unusual. So when people, let's say, oh, this cycle is different, the 4-year cycle is no longer valid, I do see, where the sentiment is coming from. Because, I mean, look at this. This late in the cycle, we're retesting the 111-day moving average. I mean, that really has never been the case, in the past cycles, especially this late into the quote unquote bull cycle. because my personal prediction is that we see Bitcoin cycle top around mid-September. That's only 3 weeks away, and we're here retesting 111-day moving average instead of going towards the 350-day moving average times two, which is depicted by this green curve. I mean, yeah, things are looking a little grim, to be honest. However, I'm still very confident that we will bounce off of this 111-day moving average. And, we'll continue to retest $118,000 and hopefully resume back to the price discovery range as soon as possible. So in terms of, why do I think that the markets are reacting this way? And I largely do think that, sure, it has to do with the federal interest rate cut that is to be expected in September with the weakening labor market, excuse me. But ultimately, I think it has more to do with the fact that a lot of the big players, the whales, the institutional investors, it's very possible that they have not fully positioned themselves where they're going to reap maximum benefit. And the reason I can tell that is, well, number one, I mean, let's take a look at Kronos, for example. So this is the coin of crypto.com, right? And by the way, I am invested in a not so ideal way. I basically invested back in 2021 at the height. So I believe my average cost is like somewhere around here, like 90 cents to $1. So it was a pretty poor investment at the time. Never sold it. Still holding on to, you know, um, a small amount of Chronos, let's say, because at this point I'm so heavily invested into crypto. My Chronos holdings is basically minuscule at this point when I look at the relative amount. However, it is still good money, and I'm very actually happy to see that recently we've been rebounding. And I thought, wow, out of nowhere. But let's take a look at the news. So what's going on? So this was just posted, right? So Trump Media Group CRO strategy to acquire $6.42 billion for CRO digital asset treasury. So, it looks like the Trump Media Group is working with crypto.com to form some sort of digital asset treasury. And, without going much into detail, really, I'm just sort of trying to interpret the general sentiment, right? And I think the general sentiment is that the big players are positioning themselves, whether it's through business partnerships, establishing treasury, whether it is, building these ETFs, if you're part of like BlackRock, other, large institutional investors. So everybody's trying to get in a comfortable position. And when the big players are ready, that's when the prices are going to absolutely skyrocket. Okay. And you might think, oh, retail traders get very greedy. Well, trust me, institutional investors are even greedier, okay? And they'll take on more risk, more leverage, and they're going to maximize their profits. But it's not really up to the retail traders like back in 2017 or 2013 for us to pump the price of the cryptocurrency. We simply have to patiently wait and then try to reap the benefits by riding the waves. But when the waves start to dwindle, we do have to make sure to exit the market. Okay. Um, so with that being said, let's take a look at Solana very quickly. So Solana, yeah, very tough, right? So we retested 205, got a hard rejection. Man, I thought we were going to stay above 180, but here, we went below it. We retested 205 again. Luckily, we held above $180, retested. Let's zoom in a little bit. So retested, got hard rejection. However, now this time, okay, we actually formed a higher low. So let's actually draw a trend line. Okay. So what we're seeing over here is that now with this new, so here we touched, touched once more, touched again, and then here instead of touching, we actually formed this double bottom over here, and we actually formed a higher low point. Okay, and we actually are resuming to the upside with 3 consecutive green candles, trying to break through the resistance at 205. But really what I want to see is a new candle formation that's consolidating above 205. Until that happens, for all we know, I could wake up tomorrow morning and this is a red candle and we retest the white trend line once more. Okay. Um, but I'm going to take this as a bullish signal because I really want Solana to start picking up the pace. Okay, so we still have a long ways to go until the previous all-time high around 260, 270. And I believe right now is a perfect opportunity for us to break away from this trend line and show some explosive movement to the upside. Now, as long as we can consolidate above 267, that's really all we need in terms of bullish signal. But we have to do that quickly. We have to do that, within the first week of September if we're gonna meet some sort of deadline for an alt season in October. Okay, a lot of people, are making predictions anywhere from $400 sold during the cycle all the way to $2,000. Like I said before, price prediction doesn't matter. We're going to use other indicators to, uh, you know, guide us when to sell our altcoin assets. Okay. So I want to take a look at 2 more, and you know what they are probably by now if you've been watching my videos. And please subscribe if you're into POPCAT and or Trollcoin. So number one, POPCAT, yeah, is very sad. But if you go on crypto Twitter and if you look at some of these Excel sheets that people are making, looking at like the number of like holders, the number of new wallets, the community, I still think PopCat is very solid. It's just that the price is really fixed, and I'm not sure if there's something more external that's going on, or perhaps even internal. But really, the price is just stagnant, even below this resistance line at 35 cents. And I mean, it is redundant and it's very tiring, but every time there's a red day, I have not stopped buying PopCat. Look, by the time this all ends, I'm probably going to be one of the major holders of PopCat. That's how much PopCat I'm buying. Now, once the price does explode to the upside, I mean, my profits will be grand in the larger scheme of things. But right now, it's pretty much a painful meme coin to hold on to because I'm literally just buying, buying, buying without seeing any meaningful profit. So that's the update on PopCat. Troll. Yeah, I really thought we are going to actually, stay above, this resistance, local resistance. Maybe if I were to draw around like, actually initially I thought it was going to stay above like, 20 cents, 21 cents. But unfortunately, we did break down. Okay, right now it's about like 17, 18 cents. And even for Troll, very similar to PopCat, on every red day, I've been buying, 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 buying. And I actually, do make posts on the YouTube channel once in a while, just showing my pump.fun chart that displays, the prices at which I bought in. Um, but that said, unlike PopCat, actually the chart does look a little better. So it's consolidating very nicely. This is simply just a retracement. But if you kind of zoom out, you can see that we're largely consolidating. Even with the troll meme coin, once we start to pick up the pace, this is definitely going to be, well, I shouldn't say definitely, but highly likely going to be a $1 billion market cap coin. And initially I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put in some play money, you know, pull out after 4x. But at this point, I'm a little bit more committed. I like the community. I believe the community is there. And I also like the fact that we're holding this line. Well, only time will tell, but if we do continue consolidating, I think that's going to be a very bullish signal. In fact, now that Solana is picking up the pace a little bit, hopefully we do actually see some exponential price action to the upside. And from current price, that's going to be, 5 plus X from here. So I'm very excited about Trollcoin as well. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Once again, very tough market, but, please stay with me. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.